Hey, lots going on. Just take a look in your bulletin, but I'm going to invite forth. So most traditional churches, right? You always had the minister, right? And the minister always had a wife who usually played the piano, right? She played the piano. She led the women's groups. She organized all the fun food things. Well, my wife works someplace else. But Elizabeth's wife, Elizabeth, the pastor here at Union Chapel, her wife works here, and she's right here. All right, he's right here. This is Mike Gilbert, and let me tell you, he doesn't play the piano, but you do play the bass and the drums. You don't do some of those things traditionally the way that we did them, but you kind of do fulfill those roles, like putting together the church luncheon. Tell me what's going on.
And Carolyn, you can call me anything.
All right.
Don't call me late to the smoke-off.
All right, I won't call you late to the smoke-off.
What I'm going to talk about here is the smoke-off. And Carolyn, you know what? I've learned that UCI and the gardeners are going to get along really well.
Do you know why?
Why is that?
It's because we all like good food,
Uh-huh.
we all love good fellowship,
Uh-huh.
and we all love a good party.
That's it.
We're going to have a party here right at the church. But first, I have a few questions to ask you. So, how many of you like to eat smoked meat? Just go ahead and raise your hands. That's beautiful. How many of you like to smoke meat? Go ahead and raise your hands. Come on. There you go. I see some hands. Perfect.
I've been told I'm smoking, but it doesn't have nothing to do with
You're
me.
smoking hot. I'll tell you what, we need to talk after this. So how many of you love dessert and, or better yet, you love homemade desserts?
Yeah.
Let's see it. Raise your hands. There's a lot of hands. Now, how many of you that love desserts have this special recipe that you've just been told time and time again you should package it and sell it? Well, we need to talk after this, okay? So I'm here to let you know that we're going to have another party here at the church on October 31st at noon. So that's directly following the service here. And again, I want you to remember that date, October 31st at noon, directly following this celebration that you have. You're all invited to smoke off. It's going to be at the lower level of the building, so it'll be right below us, and you'll actually be down there, I believe that day.
Yeah.
And you know, it's going to be great because you get to eat and sample and sample and eat and eat and sample and sample and eat. And as you're tasting and eating and tasting and tasting and eating all this delicious food, you have a chance to vote for your favorite smoked meat. You have a chance to vote for your favorite dessert. And you're going to do that with dollars. And or any money you want to bring, you will go around taste, and if you like that meat better than another one, you're just going to put some money in a bucket right there. And then at the end, we will go ahead and tally it up to see who wins. And the same thing for desserts. You get a chance to vote for desserts. There's going to be no reservations needed for this. Just bring your appetite, your voting dollars, your family, your neighbors, your friends. Again, bring your family, neighbors, and friends with you. Like Carolyn said, call some of the folks up. Ask them to come to this. It'd be a good way to get them back in here. We do need some volunteers. So we need meat smokers. We need dessert makers. We need set up and tear down helpers. There's sign-up sheets, and I think some of you have already found those, which really appreciate you finding those. And after this celebration today, you will be able to find Joyce. And Joyce, where are you at? She's right there back at the door. That's Joyce. You'll be able to find myself or Jacob Louise Tippentasek-Wolverton out there. So there'll be three of us out there helping you get signed up for whatever you need. So just come and see us and come to the celebration. Invite your friends, your family, and we can't wait to have some good smoked meat and some great desserts. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Mike. We look forward to that. Not that we're all about competition at the garden, but we also have a rich tradition on Halloween of perhaps dressing up for Halloween as part of our worship experience. And again, We can see each other in the light this time, so I encourage you to do that. But then also, no pressure, but we do have a state fair winning baker at the garden, so no pressure.
All right, give it up. Who is it?
I think she's not here today. I think she's home baking.
Yep,
That's
yep.
Becky.
But you're going to sign her up, right?
Yes, absolutely, we're going to sign her up. So thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
This is a great opportunity for us to get to know those who have invited us into their home, where we now share in community together, and we share as guests, friends, and soon to be family, I'm sure. So today is the end of Mental Illness Awareness Week. Did you know that? Probably not. And what's so interesting to me is it just so happens that today is the day that I come to you after having a pretty major dental surgery on Friday morning. And so I come to you maybe a little drugged up, but in a little bit of pain. Thank you to my Uber driver here today, but in a little bit of pain. And I started thinking about this pain. It actually started on New Year's Eve. So this problem started on New Year's Eve. Where are we in October now, right? So all of this time I've had this underlying pain, which they keep trying to figure out, which, oh, your insurance is here and there, and they try to help you through all of that. And then here is this pain. And I'm so excited because Friday comes around and the pain is going away. Well, guess what? It hurts really bad. And I'm kind of a wuss when it comes down to things like this. But it made me think about our friends who struggle, and even ourselves, right, with mental health, with depression. In fact, they say 1 in 5 of us struggle with this depression. And this pain I have had since New Year's Eve makes me really have great compassion for my friends who are struggling with pain like that and not able to figure out how to make it go away. So today, as we gather in this space, be aware that 1 in 5 of us in this very space may be struggling with that kind of underlying pain. And we're going to try to find some ways through this with compassion for ourselves and compassion for our brothers and sisters. So today, our prayer is not only to come through the darkness into the light, but to be willing to be present with one another in the darkness. So with that in mind, as we prepare for worship and our centering right now, be mindful if either you yourself struggle with darkness or somebody who does. Let's just go ahead and focus and lift ourselves or the people we love up to God right now in this time. Let's prepare for worship. I'm going to put my coffee right here beside you.
Go ahead and join us in our words of welcome. Shalom. Salam. Namaste. Peace. Gardeners, join me in prayer. Dear Lord, our God, I ask today for you to watch over the people that I love. I would do anything to keep them safe, but I cannot be with them every second of the day. There are so many things out of my control. So, Father, I place my worries into your hands. I surrender my fears to you, Almighty Father, for you are the power of love. I pray you to protect my loved ones, guide them in times of confusion, comfort them in times of sadness. Light your light, shine down on them, and lead them on their righteous path of kindness and love. I pray they feel your divine presence. I pray they give thanks. I am ever grateful and humbly ask you this. I put my trust in you, O Lord. I put my faith in you, now and forevermore. Amen.
I have my husband Greg here today playing guitar. This song that we're going to do is one of our songs that we wrote about 7 years ago. It's called Wait, and it's just You know, you hear these stories of people that sometimes they're struggling, and sometimes you just have to wait, even 1 minute, 1 day, 1 week, you know, because there's hope around the corner. This is called Wait. When the questions know no answers and the tears begin to fall, don't give up, give it time, 'cause you're just around the corner from the path that's meant for you. Don't give up too soon on the journey of life, 'cause there's gotta be darkness to see a light shining. There's always a rainbow if you look for the sun. When the rain is falling down, so wait. Can't sleep a wink 'cause your head is spinning, your life keeps turning round. Don't give up, just let go, and let the Spirit guide you through the corners of your soul. Don't give up too soon before you know, 'cause there's gotta be darkness to see a light shining. There's always a rainbow if you look for the sun. When the rain is falling down, so wait. Just wait. So hold on to that little light inside, where the darkness just can't hide. Let the light shine into the dark. Fire just takes one spark. Caught up in a web of never-ending thoughts that lead to pain. Don't give up, take a chance, 'cause in just one move you might find the answers that you need. It's up to you to make it to the dance, 'cause there's gotta be darkness to see a light shining. There's always a rainbow if you look for the sun. When the rain is falling down, if you wait, just wait, wait, wait. Just wait.
All right, the little guys, can you come up here real quick? All the kiddos. If you want, you don't have to. All right. Oh, covered in chocolate. That's mine. All right. So, just like it's important for grown-ups to have times where we're taking care of ourselves, it's important for you guys too It's so important. So we're going to go out in the hallway and talk about different ways we can help take care of ourselves and be just super important and love ourselves, okay? So you guys are going to join me out in the hallway, okay? All right, let's go ahead, go out the door there, guys.
Christina does that. I want to bring your attention to something that she has shared with us. It's found in your bulletin. If you didn't pick up a bulletin, I encourage you to do so. This is called Self-Care Bingo, and it gives you different opportunities of ways to take care of yourself. Christina is a teacher of kindergartners, and as part of her teaching experience, they make sure they pause to take care of one another. And this was one of the things they came up with. So I encourage you to take this home, and if you hold it right about there, you can read it. But there are some really neat ideas there that you may want to take it home and put it on your refrigerator and see how you can participate in self-care bingo. Yes, yes. So glad you're all here. So I did mention before that today marks the Sunday of Mental Illness Awareness Week. Curious how many of us were really aware of that? Anybody? Probably not. Oh, good, a couple, yeah. Most of us, though, were not aware of that, but keenly aware that it's October. And right here in the front of our brain, probably because of popularity and advertising, we're keenly aware that it's Oktoberfest, and we're keenly aware that the fall beers are out, right? We're also keenly aware right now that pumpkin spice, I do not understand, is taking the world by storm once again, and you can only get it for a short period of time. How many of you are keenly aware of that? Mental illness is not something that we have right here in the front of our purview for life, is it? I mean, it's not something we talk about, and I think it's because in some ways we don't understand it. But again, we have found ways to make it through life, even in the midst of this darkness and this mental illness. For some, it is like drinking all the fall beers or caffeine. As I said before, it said 1 in 5 of us have some form of mental illness. But still to this day, and maybe thanks to the Bible, mental illness is something that we feel is a result of something we're doing or not doing. In the Bible, mental illness is not defined as such, but you pick up through reading the stories that there are people who struggle, people who have fits, people who foam at the mouth, people who have been possessed by spirits. Noah drank too much and behaved in ways that by today's standards, would have landed him in jail. He would have been arrested. King David, like many good artists, okay, at first I wrote musicians, but I don't want my musicians to think I'm talking about them. But many good artists, he struggled with depression. He had fits of anger. He slept around with other people's wives. But in the end, this guy who struggled with mental illness, I would say, also had the ability to lead a nation and write a pretty good psalm. So that's what we remember him for. In the Bible, our mental state is often connected with our spiritual state. Legion is a demon or multiple demons that leads Jesus to do this exorcism on a possessed man. And while in doing so, the demon moves from the man to these poor pigs that are just hanging out having a good day. Not only does the demon move into the pigs, do you recall this? These poor pigs just don't have a chance. They are thrown off a cliff and they all drown. Mental illness in the Bible is characterized as a spiritual condition and has something to do with our disobedience and sin. Other biblical characterizations of mental illness leave us feeling helpless and hopeless. I guess what I'm trying to say here today is I think in many ways the Bible adds to the confusion around mental illness, and that makes me really sad. The last time we looked at the topic of mental health, one gardener said this, and I just can't let it go. He said this. He said, to have problems with depression and mental illness, it's like you've been told to pick up your bootstraps, and you realize, I don't have any bootstraps. In a recent TED Talk, Thomas Insel from the National Institute of Mental Health shared how we have been able to decrease the number of health-related deaths over the last 30 years in particular areas. These areas include health conditions around around heart disease, around strokes, around childhood leukemia. The death rate has fallen dramatically in the last 30 years. AIDS used to be considered a terminal diagnosis, but through the last 30 years, it's turned into a treatable condition where people are living well into an old age. The reason this has happened in these particular areas is because we had a willingness to look right at the condition and to consider the possibilities. It has been much harder with mental illness because we don't like to talk about it. We don't like to think about it. B, in some ways, I do think we feel responsible for this condition. And C, clearly, it's complicated. And we as a people don't like to deal with complicated things that we can't figure out how to fix. This past year, we have been reminded that it doesn't matter how tough you are or how hard you work, our mental conditions are a real part of life, and they impact the brightest and the best. This year, Simone Biles pulled out of events at the 2021 Olympics because of mental health challenges she was facing. There's a great documentary on right now on Netflix, which I think I may have seen this week, and I don't recall because I've been medicated. But it was called it's called Untold, and it tells different stories of sports stars and sports situations. There's a great one about the Indiana Pacers. You got to watch it. I encourage you to watch it. But in there, they tell this story of a guy named Marty Fish, who under pressure, he is under great pressure to help America move back to having a winning American tennis team. We had kind of lost that spotlight, and we put our eye on Marty, and we said, this is the guy. So he worked and worked and worked. And what happened was he moved into a mental state that he could not work himself out of. He worked incredibly hard, and it just never came around. In fact, on the biggest match of his life, he could not go out on the court. He was curled up in a ball inside and could not go on the court. You know, it's not just these public figures. I think it's important to say that we have a mental crisis in this country. People are struggling with mental health. They're crying out and they're showing up with depression, and it is showing up with minor depression and major depression. It's showing up through drug addiction and eating disorders and cutting and suicide. Young people are being pushed in ways that they believe if they just work hard enough, they can have it all. They can have happiness and money and success, but it's going to take a lot of hard work. And we all know that in the end, it doesn't matter who you are, how hard you work, that there's sometimes that we end up tired physically and mentally, exhausted, and we never reach that goal. We end up spiritually empty. We have sold ourselves something that isn't real, that we can do it physically, when really what we need to be more focused on is how we're living spiritually. I mentioned last week that I left here and I went and did a funeral for Bradley. Bradley was 24 years old and he died. On his bookshelf, there were a lot of different materials that he was reading. And as I noticed and went through them at his house with his parents last week, I noticed that a lot of them had a theme of self-help. Two of the books I want to note one was called You Can't Hurt Me, and it was by a Navy SEAL. And the other was by a guy named Matthew McConaughey. It's a really popular book right now called Green Lights. And I think in my attempt to try to figure out what happened with Brad, I kind of sat down and read both these books as quickly as I could. And I have to tell you, as I read them, my heart started breaking for Bradley. My heart started breaking because in both of these books is the premise that if you work hard enough and you believe in the possibility of working hard and making money and being physically fit, you can do anything. The one pushes a personal fitness routine that indicates that you are supposed to work out so hard that you throw up on a regular basis. The other one, the dude thinks if you think right enough, you can turn red lights green, literally, on the road. Maybe I'm just getting old. But as I read these books, I thought, no wonder this kid worked that hard. No wonder this kid and all of these different kids are pushing themselves so hard because they are buying this and believing this. They believe it. And by the way, in both books, there is nothing about care for the spirit. There's nothing about those days when you just don't feel like you can get up because you're in too much pain and what you need to do to take care of yourself on those days. See, recent events remind me that, in fact, this is a false narrative, that this is not true. And we as the church need to start saying it's not true. We need to overcome those stories of mental illness in the Bible and look to the ones that actually work. Not only do we know it's not true, but just look to Simone Biles and Marty Fish. They had the just go for it attitude, and it wasn't true. I think for me, my faith reminds me that even when I do my best and I work my tail off, things don't always work out the way I would like them to. There will be times, no matter how hard I work, I will not win. There will be times when I will be overwhelmed by sadness and pain that I cannot understand, that is unbearable. And I don't have to hide that. Sure, the Bible has jacked us up in so many ways about mental health. But Jesus also said this. He said, "Come to me, you who are heavy laden, and I'm going to give you rest." He said, "Come to me, and I'll give you rest. I am gentle and humble of heart." There's nothing powerful in just do it about that. There's nothing powerful in just do it about the way that Jesus lived his life. He died. There's nothing powerful about that. I think what's important to remember is Jesus is a guy who struggled. He struggled with authority. He struggled with his parents. He never got a degree. He never won a race. He was a carpenter, but he left that career at the age of 30 to go out with his friends and find himself. We forget that. He stepped into situations most of us avoid. Jesus stepped into the middle of dysfunction and reminded people they were loved by God. From meeting the woman at the well, who I am sure after many, many marriages and being ostracized by society was struggling with depression, he had a willingness to walk the journey with her. He worked with lepers, the people nobody wanted anything to do with. And he had a gift for bringing hope into hopeless and helpless situations. Jesus had a willingness to meet people where they were. And it was most often in the midst of their brokenness that he had a willingness to wait and to walk the journey with them until they could find the light. He wasn't there at the end of the race cheering the victors on. He was with the one who fell down in the first turn. Jesus had compassion and love for all. And he calls us to do exactly the same. As I continue to be boggled by the loss of Bradley, I am left wondering if I shared enough compassion. I know that I'm loved in the midst of that. But the last text we had with one another, I did say, just one day at a time, buddy, take it one day at a time. But I'm left wondering if I put too much faith in systems that know how to take care of people with challenges and instead just sat in the darkness with Brad. That's what I'm called to say to you today. There are people in your lives that are sitting in darkness, and all Jesus asks us to do is to sit with them. There is no answer. There's no pill. There's no program. There's no nothing. He just says sit with them and love them right where they are. We have to have compassion. And even though I say, did I have enough compassion for him? I have to wonder, do I have enough compassion for myself? I mean, I'm preaching on drugs after surgery. I don't want to let you down. I'm here. So I take no responsibility for what I say today. Do we have enough compassion for ourselves? Do we accept all those imperfections of ourselves? Do we accept all those things that we don't like to look at about ourselves? I think that's where this conversation begins, to have compassion with just you. Compassion isn't a self-improvement project. It's just loving yourself where you are. And you are loved by God no matter where you are on this journey. So first, let's start with some compassion for ourselves. Be kind to yourself. And in being kind to yourself, you will find what it needs to take to sit and wait with someone who is also in pain. You have to recognize the pain in yourself. And then you will have what you need to wait in the pain of another. You must, and we must continue to make it clear that it is okay to not be okay. It's okay to not be okay. And we can sit with one another in that. There's a story of a rabbi who is ill, suffering with deep depression and despair. When his friend visits him, he finds the rabbi alone in a darkened room, facing a wall. The rabbi cannot bear to see the light, and even the light from the doorway when the friend enters in is just too bright for his eyes and his very soul, the Talmud tells us. When the friend sees the rabbi crying, he asks, "Why are you crying?" Then the rabbi answers, "I weep because all light fades into darkness, because all beauty eventually rots." The friend sitting beside the rabbi replies, "Yes, ultimately, everything does die. You have a reason to weep." Then the friend sat down with the rabbi and wept alongside him. After a while, the friend said to the rabbi, "Does darkness comfort you? Do you want these sufferings?" "No," the rabbi said. "Then give me your hand," replies the friend. And after a long, long, long while, he lifts the rabbi up from his bed and out of his darkened room. See, sometimes the Talmud life, the Bible teaches us that the best way to help people is to wait with them in their suffering, to be present with them, and to accompany them in their way in the darkness, and to be present in the darkness, believing that there will be light someday. Sometimes the teacher Jesus, he teaches us the best way to help people who suffer is not to talk them out of their pain or to tell them that it's going to be better soon. It is to just be present with them and accompany them in the darkness. Remember, it's not your job to be the light. It's your job to walk the journey. And sometimes it's the dark. And sometimes it's the one calling out in the darkness. And other times it's just listening for the voice. Today, in the midst of pain and suffering, may we all have faith in darkness, and believe that there will be light. Light enough for all. Amen.
Keep on pushing. Keep on pushing. Got to keep on pushing. Ooh, I can't stop now. Move up a little higher. Some way, somehow. I got my strength, and it don't make sense not to keep on pushing. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Keep on pushing. Now maybe someday I'll reach that higher goal. I know I can make it with just a little bit of soul. 'Cause I got my strength, and it don't make sense not to keep on pushing. Look, 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 look yonder. What's that I see? A great big stone wall stands there ahead of me. But I've got my pride, and I'll move on aside and keep on pushing. Hallelujah. Keep on pushing. Keep on pushing. Keep on pushing. Keep on pushing. Keep on pushing.
Thank you. Thank you. I was just told that maybe I should be on drugs more when I preach, so I think that's a compliment. But you know what I think happened this week is that indeed there's been a lot of pain in my life this week, and I just couldn't get away from it, right? I couldn't work my way around it. And it wasn't until you hit that really dark spot that sometimes you know you're not waiting in the dark. So today I ask all of you, have some compassion with yourself. Have some compassion with those 30-year-old unemployed people in your life that you're not sure what's going on in their life. Have some compassion for them. Let's meet one another in the dark and believe in the light. Go now in peace, my friends, and may the love of God be yours. And by the way, it is so good to be with you today. I'm so glad I'm here. May the love of God be yours today, tomorrow, and forevermore. Amen.